Today we are diving into the history of film by discussing the grandfather of special effects, also known as Georges Melies. Georges Melies was one of the first to film fictional narratives, and made many fantasy and sci-fi films. His films were some of the first to use double exposure, stop motion, and slow motion. From 1899 to 1912, he made about 400 films, but his story might be most familiar to people from a little film called Hugo, which features him heavily. He was born in Paris in 1861 and would have been a shoemaker like his family, but he thought the arts were neat, so he became, drumroll please, a magician. Don't worry, the filmmaking came later after he saw a film from the Lumiere brothers. He thought the film was neat, so he wanted to make his own. He bought a theater and started showcasing films, both his own and others. He also bought a studio, which was basically a greenhouse that made movies because he had just so many windows so he could get the natural light for his films. There, he would make some of the most advanced films of the times thanks to his background in magic. These films were advanced because of their use of special effects. What effects, you ask? Well, let's just say they don't call him the grandfather of special effects for nothing. This man pioneered special effects, making the first jump cut when his camera stopped working while he was filming a busy street. He whacked it to get it to work, but much to his surprise, when he was later developing the film, he discovered that he had made a jump cut, the very first. The film had gone from a scene of carriages and people to several minutes later with different vehicles and people. From there, he only did more. Cinematic editing, special effects, and double exposure were all things that made his films iconic. And I bet you're wondering, what are some of his films? Well, that's exactly what I'm about to tell you, so there. His most well-known film is Le Voyage dans la Lune, or Trip to the Moon, but he also made Evocation Spirite, which is commonly known as Summoning the Spirits, and Conquest of the Pole. I'm not going to say the French version of Conquest of the Pole because, frankly, I don't know French and the last two were probably already butchered. Trip to the Moon is about a group of astronomers who go on an expedition to the moon, encountering strange and fantastical things, but also dangerous aliens. Summoning the Spirits follows a magician who hangs a wreath in the air and makes faces appear inside it. Conquest of the Pole is about a group of adventurers who travel to the North Pole and encounter crazy things, such as a giant snow giant. I know I said giant twice there, but seriously, it's massive, especially when you consider that they constructed this thing. Like, this ain't CGI, guys. This is just practical effects right here, and it goes hard. It's just super impressive the length that this film goes to in order to make this monster. I mean, seriously, let's imagine a world without special effects. A world where film never got ambitious and creative. I don't know if you've ever seen, old films before editing became the norm, but frankly, it's a slog. It's just a lot of static cuts, and then in a new location, we're now filming, and, it's a slog in the kindest way possible. And that's what the world would have been like without Georges Melies. He was so influential and iconic that he was honored with the Legion of Honor by the French in the late 1920s, and given a rent-free apartment where he spent the remaining years of his life before dying in 1938 after making over 500 films in total. Process that. 500. I don't think I've made 500 anything. Off the top of my head, I don't know, maybe 500 homework assignments turned in over the course of my life? Maybe? I'm not even sure. I'm not sure. Astounding. I love him. He's amazing. Honestly, I just think he was super cool, and he was an amazingly innovative storyteller as well as an icon of cinema. But yeah, that's the gist on Georges Melies, the grandfather of special effects. Bye!